Hey, Bitsy, thank you so much for being here today. We're so grateful that we get to interview you. I would love if you could introduce yourself.
Okay, well, my name is Bitsy Kemper. That is my real name. I actually used to have it on my driver's license because I had it on my college ID when I first moved to California. That's what I showed as my ID, and it was on my that's what I used as my ID at the DMV. So they let me use that on my license, and then when we had to show our birth certificates and stuff, I had to change it. So my real name is Elizabeth, but I've always gone by Bitsy. Long answer to a short question.
And I have soon to be 26 books. I am a children's book writer, so I have picture books, chapter books, and young adult books out there. And my newest book that I'm the most proud of is a best-selling new release from Amazon called Mommy and Me Micro Moments. And the subtitle is 5-Minute Devotional Activities for Moms and Kids, which is also a mouthful. So I just usually call it Mommy and Me Micro Moments.
Love
And
that.
before I started writing, I did a bunch of corporate work and I had interviews on CNN and I did a bunch of PR work. I co-wrote a syndicated newspaper column. Do you remember newspapers? Courtney, are
Yeah.
you able to remember? Have you ever seen one? Have you?
Yes.
So yeah, I used to write a syndicated newspaper column and then I wrote for my own newspaper here. And so I've been doing a lot of writing for a while, not just books.
Love that. I would love if you could dig more into what your books are about.
Okay, all except for one books are children's books. I have picture books, chapter books, and young adult, which all have their own audience. If you're not familiar with children's books, picture books are for young kids that haven't learned to read yet. Chapter books are for kids who have started to read and want to get a sense of accomplishment by reading chapters. And young adult are for basically seventh, eighth, and high school. Kids always want to read about somebody older than them, not younger than them. So the YA category has continued to get younger and younger. And my most recent book is for grown-ups. I don't say an adult book because that sounds sassy. So my newest book is a grown-up book for moms and kids to do together.
Love that. What inspired you to write your book?
So this most recent one is, I hate to throw my neighbor under the bus because I've done the same exact thing. But a bunch of us were out front, and there's a lot of kids in our neighborhood. We meet out in the street, and uh, one of the kids came running up to her and said, "Mom, look at this leaf." And she's like, ignoring him. And he's like, "Mom, look." And she's like, "The grown-ups are talking." And at that moment, I was just like, what I wouldn't give for my teenagers locked up in their room to show me a leaf, right? And there was no way I could say that to her without looking like I was judging, without looking like I was a jerk. And I just like how how can I get that point across without being a jerk? How can I tell other moms like your window is so small, like you don't understand how short this window is. He has maybe a month more of wanting to show a leaf to you. And I just started thinking, maybe there's a way that I can get that point across to other moms because I wish I knew. I the number of times my kids wanted to show me rocks and sticks, and I'm like, please, if I see one more rock, and now they barely look me in the eye. So I really wanted to have a book that captured those small moments of time, those micro moments of time.
Love that so much. When you were writing your book, who are you thinking of when it comes to who your book is for?
I was definitely writing for for busy moms, because I think we're all busy moms. So that's basically every mom. Doesn't matter if you're a working mom outside the home, if you're a working mom inside the home, or if you're what they call a traditional stay-at-home mom. Every mom is busy. Every mom is overworked. So I was looking at the mom who at the end of the day may not even think, gosh, did I look my child in the eye today? You know, I mean, I got him dressed, I made him breakfast, but did we have any quality time today? They might not even think of it. And maybe they do think about it and go, gosh, I didn't have any quality time. I'm going to try tomorrow. So that's what I was thinking of.
Love that. How long have you been writing and what made you really sit down and start?
So I have been writing children's books since my youngest was in a stroller, because to keep myself from being bored, I would write a children's, I was writing a rhyme in my head and I would say it out loud to him. And basically every day I would come up with a new verse in my head. I mean, he's a baby blob at that point, right? He's a potato, but I entertained myself and I figured he's hearing my voice. And I figured, this is a book. I mean, I've read my kids so many children's books. I'm like, I'm going to try this out. So I ended up putting it together as a children's book. And I went to my first children's book writer conference in LA and I submitted it for critique and in a competition. And I was very excited about winning because I thought it was the best thing in the whole wide world. And it was awful, actually. It was terribly written. It's a perfect example of everybody's first children's book. It barely rhymed, and yeah. So that story will never get published. But I learned a lot from it, and it became addicting because the children's book writing industry is so vastly different than the computer industry where I was. Because if I have a computer chip and Courtney, you have a computer chip, the company that's making computers is only going to choose one of us. But if I write a children's book and you write a children's book and they pick yours, that's good for me because that means they're publishing children's books. That means people are buying children's books. So that gives me hope. I'm not mad at you for that. I'm happy for you. And that was just crazy weird to me. So I just love the children's book industry. And I've been in it ever since.
Love that. What is your schedule like when you are writing a book?
Uh, it's kind of, I wouldn't say topsy-turvy, give or take. Whenever I feel like writing, in a way, it feels like I'm always writing because I have a lot of ideas in my head. But the times that I sit down and write, I would say a lot of times it's when I'm a captive audience. Like if my kids go to college about 8 hours away, so I'll bring my laptop and I'll write away. I'll just write. I'll take my notebook. I have handwritten notes all the time in a notebook, and I'll start to put that in Word and really try to hammer out and turn it into a real story. And when I'm on deadline, when I have a contract for a book, I will try to do that during the day. I'll force myself to do some specific hours writing. And I will tell you, the closer I get to deadline, the cleaner my kitchen gets. Because as a distraction, I always suddenly decide, gosh, when was the last time I cleaned the backsplash? So I don't really have specific. Yeah. A friend of mine, Lori, she treats her writing like a job. She wakes up in the morning, she sits in her office, she works eight to 5, and she has 100 books, like literally over 100 books. And there's something to be said for that. So
Love that. What do you need in your writing space to help you stay focused?
I would say to stay focused, I just need as few distractions as possible. I can't really have the TV on or people in the room because I do get distracted. So I like to go off into my own little cubby. I have different parts of the house that I go to when I get bored.
Love it. What is your favorite writing snack and drink?
Oh, my favorite snack, hands down, is chocolate, and there's a specific one called Tony's. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Like Tony's, I call it Choco Lonely because that's what it looks like, how it's spelt. And they have a couple of dark chocolate versions, and I have three different places in the house where I have it stashed, depending on where I'm writing. That's my favorite when my watch dings and tells me I need to get up and exercise because I've been sitting down for too long. That's my favorite place to go and grab that. And I drink iced tea. Iced tea is my favorite.
Love it. What type of books do you personally enjoy reading?
Hmm. I would say mostly contemporary fiction, but much like your podcast, I'm kind of across the board. I like all kinds of books. I joined a book club recently because I wanted to stretch and read books that I normally wouldn't. And I've had a lot of fun with that because I read genres that I'm just like, I would never pick that. And I've enjoyed them. So they've expanded my horizons even more.
Amazing. Are there any books or authors that inspired you to become a writer?
Let's see. Well, to become a better writer, I would say Ellen Hopkins. She writes young adult, and she created the entire writing in verse category. And she is absolutely amazing. Like writing in verse, for one thing, is amazing because you're writing basically every single page is a poem, but it creates a story. And like one of her pages, it looks like a heart, and I forget what the poetry form is called, where it creates a shape, but that shape describes what the words tell. And it's in the shape of like a broken heart, a heart that's split down the middle. And there's the left half that is his words, and the right half are her words. And then you read it across the, and it's a third story. When you read it across, it's still, and it's like, how can she do that? Like, it's the most amazing thing. So when I think of how I could be a better writer, I know I could never do that, but I always think that's an amazing talent that not everyone could have.
Love that. That's very unique. I haven't heard of that.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. She's incredible. She has like not one time I introduced her and I was at a writers conference and I was being flippant. And I said, "Oh, this is my friend Ellen. She has like 6 New York Times bestsellers." And she goes, "Oh no, it's 9 now." And I'm like, "I was kidding. I thought you had 3." She goes, "No, it's 9." But she's like just humble about it. She's great.
it's amazing. What books did you grow up reading? Did you have an all-time favorite?
Ah, yes. Yes. I would say Clifford the Big Red Dog made me a reader. Clifford introduced me to a magical world that could possibly exist. And I mean, like, I knew it wasn't real, but the story could be real. And I just love that it just took me away from stuff. And I was so involved with whatever happened with that big red dog. So that definitely turned me on to reading, reading fiction for one. But man, I just loved those stories because of the possibility of things. And that definitely turned me into a reader. And probably what turned me into a writer too, that I might be able to have that effect on a child. Someday I could turn that child into a reader. Someday I can put the smile on the face of a child the way that Clifford put it on mine.
Love that. On the other side of that, now as an adult, what are your favorite series or authors that if they come out with something, you automatically grab it?
There's a local author around me called Amber Garza, Garza. She's got some great stuff, and I like a lot of her works because she is, um, a lot of her stories are local to me, so I know the names of the streets and the towns that she's talking about. Oh, John Irving, of course. You can't forget John Irving. Love John Irving. Oh, Frederick Bachman. Yes. Okay. Um, my goodness, one of my very favorite stories are the one I originally saw it as a uh, mini series on TV, and it was dubbed. I think it's Swedish, and it's called Ordinary People. I think, and I had borrowed the book from the library, and I went out and bought. I went out and bought it because it was just so wonderful. Lucy Foley is one. Amortals, Amortowles. Have you heard of him?
I have
He
not.
wrote he wrote A Gentleman in Moscow, and then he wrote The Lincoln Highway. Both books are pretty thick, and getting to hear him speak it was via Zoom call, but it's just so wonderful. You know, so have you read Anna Karenina? Just a random question.
I haven't.
I love that book, not necessarily because of how it's written. It does get very confusing and it's long. But what I love so much about that book is how it puts you in the moment and how you see that life back then about riding in the carriage and arriving in the house and walking up the steps and how food was a celebration and it wasn't, you just don't come home, shovel food in your face and go somewhere else. No, food was the destination. And I love that. And A Gentleman in Moscow similarly does that to me because he really puts you in the time frame where this takes place. And he does it very well. So
Love that.
those are some of my favorites.
Amazing. What would you tell someone just starting out with reading again?
Hmm. So if someone started reading again because they didn't like reading or they didn't have the time to read or they're just shy readers, I would tell them to keep at it. I would tell them if they grabbed a book and they didn't like it, put it away. Try another one. Don't be afraid to do that. And it took me a long time to come. I thought I was being disrespectful to the book, disrespectful to the author. But if you're watching a series on Netflix and you don't like it, you're not going to watch episode 2, 3, 4, 5. You're not going to watch the whole series because you didn't like it. So why would you suffer through a whole book that you don't like? So put it away. Go pick another one. There's no shame in that. I mean, that's not on you. You don't like it. I like the color pink. You don't. That doesn't mean you're wrong and I'm right. You just opinion. So pick up a different book. Try something else. So if you're a reader that wants to read something new, try something different, or just get back into reading, keep trying. Find something in the library that speaks to you and give it a shot. If it doesn't work, try another book.
Love that. Such an amazing perspective. On the other side of that, what would you tell someone just starting to write their own book?
Ooh, okay. If you're just starting out writing, I have to say, do your homework. Don't be a rebel that says, no one's ever done this before, and I'm going to do the best thing that anyone's ever seen. Because no one wants that. No one wants to read something like that. No editor or publisher wants to publish something like that because it's too much of a risk. They can't put forth that much money on a risk, especially in today's market. So that's not to say that you can't write it. Go ahead, but don't plan on getting it published. And if you decide to publish it on your own, don't plan on a lot of sales. And that's okay with a lot of people that just want to get it published for themselves. But if you're just starting out writing, do your homework and see how stories are written. Like in children's books, there's a character that has a problem that needs to be overcome. They try, they fail, they try, they fail. They try again based on what they learned from the first 2 times. They overcome it based on themselves, not somebody else's idea. Then at the end, they're different from how they were at the beginning based on the changes that they went through. And it's either a happy ending or a sad ending. That's the format of every children's book, unless it's a counting book, unless it's a book with Ronald McDonald in it. I mean, unless it's a character book. That's the format people are looking for. And there are famous people or there are writers that have a lot of books out that can change that formula and take risks. But an editor or agent isn't going to want to take that risk if you're brand new. So do your homework, read. In children's book, I say read 100 picture books, like legit, like read 100 that were written in the past 2-3 years. It's a picture book. It doesn't take that long. But you'll start to see the rhythm. You'll start to see the wording. You'll start to see the pacing. You'll start to figure out there really is a formula to it. And there's a reason for that. Children can only sit in your lap for so long. You want to grab their attention in a way that makes them listen. And you can do it very effectively in many different ways. And just because there's a story out on Halloween, you can write a million different stories on Halloween. If you have an idea on a starfish that got lonely, and you see somebody just published a story about a starfish that got lonely, that doesn't mean no one will take yours. Yours can be a different take on it. So if you do your homework, you're going to be much, much better. You're going to have better chances at getting published, but you're also going to be a much better writer because you figured out what other people who haven't done their homework haven't figured out.
Love that. What's one thing that people are generally surprised to find out about you?
I would say, I mean this in the nicest way, but I think people would be probably surprised that I'm actually smart. That I have an M.B.A. and that I was, the president of the Economic Society and, things like even my family, for example, my son was talking about, he got a degree in business and he and my husband and I were sitting at the table and he was talking about what kind of job could he get with an economics degree. And the two of them are talking with each other and I'm just watching them talk, listening. I gave them about 15 minutes and I say, you could talk to an economics major. You could ask an econ major, someone with an MBA, someone who literally majored in economics. You could ask her what kind of job you could get. Or, you could discuss amongst yourselves that have no experience whatsoever, but no, you go ahead, you talk. Like, you're just quickly dismissed because I'm the silly one. I'm the one you just wouldn't expect to have a brain in their head.
Is there anything you would like to say or add?
Okay, well, yes. So you were mentioning writers. I have two things. Well, I have a bunch of on my website. I have a bunch of blogs that can help writers. I have a video for beginner writers that I think it's very funny. It's a little dated right now, but it's still a fun way for picture book writers to get started. Yeah, I have a bunch of posts on how to get started writing picture books. But if you have already written a book or you want to get yourself out, you hear the word platform a lot, how to increase your platform. And it's never too late to get that platform started. I think the phrase is the best time to get your platform started is yesterday, and the next best time is today, something to that effect. So I have a challenge. It's called the 31-day author platform challenge. And it's doing one thing every day for 35 days, for 31 days. And it's simple things you can do in 5 to 15 minutes. And it's just one thing every day. And it's bitsykemper.com/challenge. And it's self-paced and it's one thing every day. And you'll be amazed at how the social media platform will increase with that.
Love that. That sounds like such a fun
Yeah,
challenge.
and it's free. It's free. It's just different things. Anyone. It also works very well with small businesses. You don't have to just be a writer. It's anyone who wants to increase their platform. You don't have to be a writer.
Love that. Where's the best place for readers to find your books? I know some readers love signed copies. Is that an option and the best place to connect with
Um,
you?
the best place to connect with me would be bitsykemper.com. BITSYKEMPER.com. There should be links to my book. There is a local bookstore that has signed copies that I have information for on my website. It's available on uh, Amazon, of course. There is Bookstop, which is an indie publisher that donates proceeds to independent bookstores. It's available there. In fact, I think that's the only place where you can save $1.50 or something like that. I think that's the only place where it's on sale. And I believe I have a link to that on my website as well. So, yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here today. We're so grateful that we got to interview you. I'll be sure to drop those links in the show notes. That way everyone can find you. And again, thank you so
Perfect.
much.
All right. Thanks for having me over.